You ready to film another exciting episode? Real good at doing stuff?
I can't wait.
Gotta be more exciting for TV.
I can't wait.
Okay, good. There we go.
They are eating the cats. They are eating the cats. They are eating the cats. They are eating the cats.
All right, real good stuff doers worldwide. It's a worldwide phenomenon now. We're here today with Justin Martin, and we have made a big switch. Justin, what's happened here?
Yeah. We're fueling the engine with the Lord's fuel,
With the Lord's fuel.
as Pete would say.
Right. Yeah. So what have we been fueling with?
We've been fueling it with Q16, which is probably Jesus's fuel.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Maybe,
yeah,
I don't
right.
know. I'd have to phone a friend.
Maybe it's
on
like
that,
an
but-
apostle's fuel.
But I was just telling Pete, we've been running Q16 ever since we've ever ran a turbocharged combo, which is 2008.
Right.
So it's kind of like letting go of your 18-year-old child, you know what I mean, and having a newborn.
It's a
you
big
know what
jump,
I mean?
right.
But I will say this: you guys have been on me to change this thing for a while. We see some potential, so we'll jump on the deal and see what happens.
Right.
Race
So-
car, race fuel.
Right, yeah. So we've made some, you can't just, something like this, you can't just, it's not like just changing out injectors. There's
Right.
Kind of a lot of things got to happen. First, a bit, obviously, we got a big, way more fuel pump
Yep.
on here.
Yep.
Way more fuel cell.
More fuel. Yeah, went from like a 4-gallon to a 7-gallon.
Right,
Went from a 12-gallon pump to a 30-gallon pump.
right.
Went to one set of 325s to two sets of 720 injectors.
Right, so way more fuel delivery capacity. We've moved the turbos a little bit. Well, just give me a quick rundown on the things we've changed chassis-wise.
So the first and foremost thing is we had to make more room for the fuel cell.
Right.
So we got rid of some of the frame that we didn't need so we could lose some weight, make it a little more aesthetically pleasing, make it a little easier to work around. We needed to build new headers. The old headers were cracking up, so I had a buddy build us some half-inch thick flanges and CNC and EGT bungs in them, so
Right.
no more welding bungs up.
Right, EGTs are in the
Yep,
plan.
all new hot side, updated Garrett LDR legal turbos that we actually moved back and down quite a bit, try to get the weight a little bit lower, shorten up the intermediate pipe as much as we could, bigger exhaust system. Had to do some firewall reconstruction to make some room.
Right, before we blew into the car, into an intercooler, and
Yes.
then back out into the
Yes.
intake, and now we no longer do that.
Yep. Got dual motion throttle bodies with a fancy little common throttle setup that we got there. Works out great. Motion blow-off valves. I mean, them guys make about everything. You can't build a race car without using their
Right,
stuff.
motion stuff everywhere, right
Yep.
stuff everywhere.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the basics in here. So Devin just wired the whole car up.
Yep.
Complete fresh start, right?
Yep. Complete fresh start.
Right,
Every
so-
single wire out of the car.
Right,
So the harness is about half the weight of what it was. Now we do have to weigh a certain amount. We have to be pretty heavy, but it's still smart to use the lightest, smallest components you can use, so you can add the weight where you want to add the weight. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's no secret.
Yeah.
We fixed a lot of carnage from some
Just gear transfers.
drivetrain, yeah, just
Right.
from years. And we braced up some of the back half a little bit, trying to fix some
so
chassis issues.
There's some more X bracing and whatnot back here. Just kind of general updates, I guess you would say.
Yep.
And we're in a whole lot better shape. Like I say, a lot of times on something like this, the switch to alcohol has more to do with weight than it does the actual fuel, and that's going to give us some options. So we used to have a gigantic air-to-water intercooler right here, and
had a 7-gallon water tank. This thing was carrying, this thing was carrying about 10 gallons of water. So you're talking 75, 80 pounds in just water and ice it carried every run.
And the problem with that is you need the weight, but you can't move it anywhere, and that's where we started to have problems. So now we're going to have the ability to move weight. We still got to be heavy. What do we got to weigh now?
3270.
3270. So this thing's still got to be a tank.
3270.
Right. But now we can at least move the weight around a little bit and help manage the drag race side of things. And that was the main reason we made the change, I guess. But
ever evolving. It's not like a crescent wrench. You go and buy a nice Blue Point crescent wrench, that thing will work for 30 years.
Right.
You go build a brand new chassis like we did in 2016, and within 3 to 4 years, there's things that needed to be updated, things that need to be changed, things you want in different places.
Yeah, the class like LDR just evolved so fast. What's fast one day is nothing the next. So you got to be willing to make changes. So anyhow, we're gonna just kind of get this thing going on the dyno. We're not going to kill it or anything, but we're gonna kind of go over the switch to methanol today on Real Good at Doing Stuff.
What do you think? It actually cranked up, took fuel pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm just having to run these numbers real low, but with that style injector, that's kind of normal, you know.
Okay.
Just super fat to start with, getting better now. Alright, so that's 970 more or less on motor. That's basically just kind of working on the burnout tunes. Now I'm going to start creeping just a little bit of boost in it, pull by pull, and adding power drop by drop. Speaking of raindrops, we got nothing but rain here.
killing me.
Anyhow, let's turn it up a little bit. Alright, so there's 1274 with 10 pounds of dome. Picked up 200 horsepower with 5 pounds additional. Generally at this point I'm just kind of creeping up 5 at a time, adding more and more. So now we're going to go to 15 and bring it on up. Alright, so that was 15 on the dome. It made 1440 something. Went super fat, which is fine. It pulled, all of a sudden once it gets here, it goes from adding a little bit of fuel to pulling 30% and still being fat. And the reason it's doing that is because at this point we're just barely starting to turn our second set of injectors on. And they aren't really happy doing that, right? They don't like to be barely on, so they kind of over fuel a little bit. I'm not going to fix that much. Reason being is we're going to push right past that, and that'll kind of fix itself a little bit gradually. So if I fix it on the dyno, I cause a problem at the track. A lot of times I'll try to get that where it's already done that by the time we let off the trans brake, so it doesn't affect the pass. But that's what's going on right there. Everything else looks great. We're just fat and slobbering fuel. We're going to fix it with boost. You can fix almost everything with boost. Alright, so that was a pull with roughly 20 pounds of boost. now the second set of injectors is pretty much firmly on, and they're just drowning the motor. So I got no choice but to pull a bunch of fuel out of there to help compensate for that. A lot of times these injectors don't flow like they're exactly supposed to at lower duty cycles. When you're talking about great big methanol fuel injectors, they're kind of on and off switches a little bit, so sometimes you got to do weird stuff in the map to make it work, and that's what we're going to have to do a little bit here. But it'll probably fix itself a little bit as we keep cranking boost into this thing. So probably going to make another pull at the same boost level and see if we can get it to keep from just gargling so much fuel, because it's way fatter than it should be even pulling 30%. So we'll get that a little bit more under control first, and then we'll crank it up. So I'm thinking it made like 16 something then, but like I said, we'll get it a little better first and then turn it up. Okay, so another pull, same boost. Sounded much cleaner for sure. We're still pulling gobs of fuel out to get it there. So this is some kind of, this particular type of injector is kind of funny about this. At the lower duty cycles, what it flows is totally different than what the computer thinks it flows. So for example, we're getting into 60s, and probably if it were tuned right, 50s are low, real low VE numbers that obviously are not correct, but you got to put in there what makes it work. So kind of is what it is. It may get better, probably will, as we start to open this injector a little better. I'm sure it will get better, but we're not there yet. So anyhow, we're gonna put another 5 on it, crank it up a little more, and go from there. All right, so that was another 5 more on the dome, and it made a little over 2,000. Also, keep in mind, these are real horsepower numbers. None of this fantasy football hub dyno craziness. So these numbers are, the hub dynos are a great idea, and they probably work great, but the numbers that some people, it's just ridiculous. Anyhow, so now, as predicted, we're starting to add fuel back in. So if I turn the correction overlay off, see how we got this big step here where we start to turn the injectors second set on. I have to do this crazy stuff. Now it's starting to make sense again. So now I got to start adding back in a little bit which is what I told you would happen. And that what's happening there is the second set is now opened up. So now we're even. If I look here in, where have I got it? EGTs. Now out here, both sets of injectors are flowing the same. They're 50-50. So now our VE numbers are not skewed as much because they're opened enough where they're halfway doing what the computer thinks they're doing. That'll probably improve some more as we start to turn things up. But like I say, that's a kind of a nature of the beast with this particular style of injector. And a lot of this we're probably gonna have to redo at the racetrack, because at the racetrack I'm gonna try to get both injectors on at least the second set, at least on a good bit in the spool. So that's already transitioned before we release the trans brake. So that's gonna mean, you know, a little bit of a fresh start there, but that's okay. That's what we're doing. So anyhow, everything else looks great. We're probably gonna make one more pull with another 5 pounds of dome, and look at some spark plugs, call it a wrap, and start all over at the racetrack. We spooled it a few times. Everything spools. We're up on the chip in like 2 seconds or less, and the boost is soon to follow. So that situation is greatly improved over gasoline, which is the way it works every single time. Alright, so there's the last pull. It's 2100 and some horsepower. Nothing really more to say. Everything looks fine. It's getting fat up top. Pull some fuel out there. At this point, we're just kind of going to go to the racetrack and start again. We'll probably have to redo some of this because I'm going to try to get the injectors turned on, the second set turned on pretty decent in the spooling process, so that there's less of a transition. I like to get it where there's not a whole lot of transition after the button release if possible, especially with injectors like these. Some injectors are a lot smoother and less of a big jump. But anyhow, that's a look at a kind of a switch over from gasoline to methanol. And yeah, I got Justin over here and Dale for Cletus over here. It's just a tuning jamboree going on today. But anyhow, that's enough for one day. All right, Justin. Kind of wraps up our little alcohol switch 'em up session.
Yep.
What do you think?
Well, we're ready to go racing.
Right.
Ready to burn this thing in.
Ready
you
to
know what I mean?
Ready to go try it.
Yep. Everything went good. Everything worked good. System worked good.
Wiring jobs.
Yep.
Top notch.
Yep. Everything's top notch. Engine program top notch. So, I'm ready to burn this thing in and
see what happens.
see what happens. Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so that's about it for today. Next step is to take this thing to a racetrack and basically start over. At least we got our feet wet here, and everything's kind of working. It's all working. It's in the ballpark. Now it's time to let off the button at the racetrack and see what happens. Until next time, that's enough for real good at doing stuff today. Whatever. Who cares? All right, Cody. Update. Paulson Turds. You went to the racetrack.
Went to the racetrack, done some good burnouts.
Good burnouts.
A little more burnouts on the starting line than I wanted to.
Then you did more burnouts.
Then I did a few more burnouts.
Right.
But all in all, it was a success.
Right,
For
yeah.
the first outing anyways.
Right, just couldn't hook it up.
Just couldn't hook it up.
Right.
Way too many horse torques.
Right, we'll probably need to take that old guts and put it back in there.
Yeah, that'd probably be the smartest thing to do.
Right.
Be the cheapest.
Okay.
Cheapest.
Right, so we'll fill you in more on that soon. Are you gonna take it to Georgia?
No, I need to do a few things to it and
Okay, gotta make some converter
yeah,
swaps.
make some, yep,
Okay.
do some swapping on it and updating and
Right, so as soon as we get some good track testing and whatnot, will be another episode of Polished Turds.
They are eating the cats.